Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to yet another session of guided newspaper practice. We organize these sessions every day with the aim to help students improve their reading skills, improve their speaking skills, and also trigger thoughts so that will be useful for their writing section. Now, these sessions happen every day at 11 a.m. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, click on the subscribe button and also click on the bell button so that you can receive these notifications. All right, so today we bring to you yet another very interesting article that is about going offline, as in switching off from the digital world. What happens when you do that? Good morning, Jia, and good morning, everyone who is joining in. What happens in these sessions is that I read the entire article slowly first, and then I read it a little fast. And after that, we will do guided speaking, as in you will repeat after me with the same kind of pronunciation and stresses that we have. And after that, you will be asked to frame your own opinions about the topic of the articles. All right. Hello, Reena, Lakwinder, Avinash. Good morning, Urvashi. Yes. Okay. So let's get started with today's session right away. Now, today's newspaper article is about going offline from the digital world, as in switching off all your smartphones and being in the dark. How does it feel like? Okay, and also contains some very interesting statistics and exactly like how you would find it in your writing test. Okay, hi Deep, hi Kiran, hi Urvashi, good morning. Okay, let's get started then. What I will do first is I will read the entire article slowly, try and pick up the difficult words. Make sure you are focused throughout the article. Don't lose focus, otherwise, it becomes difficult to understand. Okay, and this practice, whatever we are doing right now, will be very useful for your reading test. You have long texts to read. Also, in your listening test, you have to be really attentive about reading the questions, right? So let's get started. Stressed by the constant connectivity, exhausted by having to rely on his computer and phone to communicate, artist Sam Winston decided to see what would happen if he tuned out all the modernity's noise. Instead of just going camping or leaving his phone at home during a long bike ride, he isolated himself in the dark for a few days in his East London studio. No screens, Tom Lamont writes in 1843 magazine. No sun, no visual stimulation of any kind. Winston taped all his studio windows. He prepared all his food, slept, and worked in darkness. His experiment revealed a lot about the function and capabilities of the human mind under the opposing condition of constant stimulation and the calm of deprivation. Many of us can relate to Winston's urge to tune out, if not the way he went about it. Now that so many of us are hunched over our phones during shelter in place, relying on screens for news, entertainment, socialization, and work, the onslaught of information is more apparent than ever. Winston wasn't simply escaping a glut of screens and information. He was escaping our era, one which has evolved so quickly that humanity has barely had the time to adjust. A study in 2011 found that on a typical day, Americans were taking in 5 times as much information as they had done 25 years earlier. Lamont reports. And this was before most people had bought smartphones. Okay, obviously, you guys understood what the article was all about, right? Manisha, good morning. Utkarsh, Rajdeep, Shivam, good morning. Yes, so it was all about tuning off from the internet, and it was very evident from the words that were there, right? So, give me a percentage of how much you understood of the article. Were you able to follow the article? Were you able to follow the tone of what the article was? Give me a percentage on the chat box. Yes. All right. Now that you've read the article once, it's going to be easy for you to pick up words faster. What we will do now is we will do speed reading, and as I do speed reading, I will explain to you the difficult words. Yes. Good morning, Amanpreet. Yes. All right. Satish, hi. Okay, so let's do speed reading now. All you have to do is to pick up 4 5 words at a time. And while I do that, I will also explain you the meaning. Okay. Stressed by constant connectivity, exhausted by having to rely on his computer and phone to communicate, artist Sam Winston decided to see what would happen if he tuned out all of modernity's noise. Now, what does this sentence say? This sentence says that constant connectivity, as in you are connected to the internet throughout all the time, and exhausted, as in tired by having to rely, as in to depend on his computer and phone to communicate. What are you doing right now? You're communicating with us through phone or your computer, right? He's tired of all this form of communication. So this particular artist decided to see what would happen if you tuned out all of modernity's noise. Modernity is anything that's contemporary, that's it, as in whatever is happening right now. So he wanted to switch off from the noise that was going on around him, especially through the digital world. Okay, so what he did later on was this: instead of just going camping or leaving his phone at home during a long bike ride, he isolated himself in the dark for a few days in his East London studio. The sentence is very evident. He did not go on a long bike ride. He did not go camping. He just isolated himself in the dark, as in, he made his entire room dark for a few days in his East London studio. Okay, studio is either a place of where you prepare art or sometimes considered an apartment. All right. Okay, so that was this sentence. No screens, Tom Lamond writes in 1843 magazine. No sun, no visual stimulation of any kind. What does this mean? Visual stimulation, anything that triggers your vision. Okay, as in light triggers our vision, right? So color also triggers your vision. So nothing, no visual stimulation, no screens, no laptop, no tablet, no mobile phone. Okay, that's what this person did. Winston taped all his studio windows. He prepared all his food, slept, and worked in darkness. His experiment revealed a lot about the function and capabilities of the human mind under the opposing conditions of constant stimulation and the calm of deprivation. Now, what does this mean? So, this was an experiment that this artist did. He's not done that before. He wanted to see what would happen if he had no light, no screens. Okay. And the article says that this particular experiment revealed, as in gave out, right? It projected a lot of information about how the human mind can work under the opposing conditions of constant stimulation and calm of deprivation. As in, what would happen if you don't have this stimulation, right? What would happen if there is no light, there is no screen? What would happen? So his experiment revealed that human mind can still work the same way that it is doing in the presence of mobile phones and tablets. Okay, so are you able to follow the article now? Yes, so you are able to get a picture of what the experiment is, right? And also the aim of this experiment. Correct, and it's a very interesting thing to do. Obviously we'll not do that maybe, but it's a very interesting thing to do, right? Era, Navmalika, Reena, Jia, good job. Yes. All right. Okay, so let's move on and understand what else he did in this experiment. Okay, many of us can relate to Winston's urge to tune out, if not the way he went about it. We do want to tune out from our mobile phones, laptops, and all that, but obviously not the way that he did it, right? Urge, as in the urgency, the need to tune out. Okay, if not the way he went about it. Now that so many of us are hunched over our phones during shelter in place, relying on screen for news, entertainment, socialization, and work, the onslaught of information is more apparent than ever. Okay, now what does this sentence say? And all of us are bent over. Hunched is to bend over. All right. Your back is bent. Imagine someone who has a hunchback, someone who bends and walks. Okay. Yeah. So we are hunched over our phones during staying at home. Okay. Relying on screens, as in depending on our screens, on laptops and mobile phones for news, for entertainment, socialization. What is socialization? Meeting new people, right? And work. The onslaught of information is more apparent than ever. What is onslaught again? The attack of information. So much information is more apparent than ever, is evident, is clear than ever. Okay, so now that you're looking at your screens for everything, for news, for meeting people, for entertainment, the information that you receive is clear than ever. I mean, it's a lot of information for you to receive, right? So that's what the article says. Let's look at more sentences. Winston wasn't simply escaping a glut of screens and information. A glut, as in a lot of, excess. That's what glut means. Okay? He was escaping our era. Now, this sentence says that this person, Sam Winston, was not really escaping screens, and it's not like he was escaping information. He was escaping an entire era, right? As in the digital era, everybody is on online now, everybody is on the internet, correct? One which has evolved so quickly that humanity has barely had the time to adjust. Think about 25 years earlier, there was not much internet as there is today, correct? So it has evolved so quickly that we've had less time to adapt and adjust to this new scenario. And he was actually escaping this entire digital era. That's what the following sentences say. Okay. Did you find the article interesting? Hunched means to bend, Utkarsh and Himani. Yeah. Did you find the article interesting? It's a very interesting take on how a person takes extreme steps to switch off from the internet, right? And the author is kind of neutral about it. He does like the way he did it, but maybe not that extreme, right? Yes, good job. Okay, now what we will do is we will do guided speaking. Okay, yeah, Manpreet, Namrata, good job in following me. Yeah, okay, now let's do some guided speaking. Now, this is a very interesting article. This is how exactly you practice guided speaking. And why is this important? Why is guided speaking so important? In your speaking test, you are judged on the way you pronounce and speak. Okay. And you need to give appropriate stresses and pauses. When there is a comma, when there's a full stop, you are required to pause. And that's very important that you do that. Okay. Same thing with important words. Now, if there's an interesting word that's coming up, you might want to stress a lot on that word. That increases your score in the pronunciation area. Okay, let's try and do that with this very interesting article. Okay, you will just repeat after me in the same way that I am stressing. Okay, yes. Stressed by constant connectivity, exhausted by having to rely on his computer and phone to communicate, artist Sam Winston decided to see what would happen if he tuned out all of modernity's noise. Modernity, anything that's new, anything that's current, contemporary. Okay. Yes, exhausted. It's not exhausted, it's exhausted. The z sound should come. All right, moving on. Instead of just going camping or leaving his phone at home during a long bike ride, he isolated himself in the dark for a few days in his East London studio. No screens, Tom Lamont writes in 1843 magazine. No sun, no visual stimulation of any kind. Winston taped all his studio windows. He prepared all his food, slept, and worked in darkness. So when you pronounce these words, worked, the D sound has to be subtle. Don't put a lot of stress on the D. Don't say worked. Okay, just say worked. Put it down. Don't put a lot of stress on the D. Okay, same thing with taped. The D sound has to be very subtle. Okay, let's move on now. His experiment revealed a lot about the function and capabilities of the human mind under the opposing conditions of constant simulation, constant stimulation and the calm of deprivation. What does deprivation mean? To be prevented of doing something, okay? Restricting to do something. That's what deprivation. It's deprivation. It's not deprivation, okay? Deprivation. It's a noun. Stimulation is a trigger. Okay. Simulation is different. Simulation is an experiment of something or is like, repeating or making a mock of something else. Stimulation is to trigger. Both are different. Okay. All right. Good. Again, it's opposing. It's not opposing. It's opposing. Opposing. The sound has to be there. All right. Now, are you guys with me on the article? Type with me on the chat box. I hope you're able to do the guided speaking. Now, this is where you can kind of, bring in your own ways of stressing words because it's such an opinionated article. Yeah. Good job, all of you. Let's move forward. Many of us can relate to Winston's urge to tune out. If not the way he went about it. Now that so many of us are hunched over our phones during shelter in place, relying on screens for news, entertainment, socialization, and work, the onslaught of information is more apparent than ever. Now, when you pronounce these words, shelter for, make sure you don't stress on the R too much. Okay, shelter for. Don't say for shelter. Don't roll your R's too much. Okay. All right. Again, it's onslaught, as in attack of information. So much is apparent. Apparent. It's not apparent. Apparent. Okay. Yes. Let's move on now to the rest of the article. Winston wasn't simply escaping a glut of screens and information. He was escaping our era. one which has evolved so quickly that humanity has barely had the time to adjust. Barely is a very little. That's what barely means. Had barely had the time to adjust, had very little time to adjust. Okay, that's what evolved is to grow. Okay, that's what it means. So this particular digital era evolved or grew so quickly. That's what it means. Okay, apparent is to be clear, is to be evident. That's what apparent means. Okay, moving on. The last sentence of this particular article. A study in 2011 found that on a typical day, Americans were taking in 5 times as much information as they had done 25 years earlier. And this was before most people had bought smartphones. Okay, so some good words, again I'm just repeating. Glut is excess, a lot of. Okay, that's what glut means. Screens and information, again evolved is to grow barely, very little. Okay, typical day, a usual day. Okay, that's what typical means. This was bought, again as in to buy something, to purchase something. Brought is different, bought is different. Brought is to bring something. Okay, is to go and bring something back. Okay, I bought some vegetables is different from saying I brought vegetables. Okay, yes, understand the difference and make sure you use the words correctly. Okay, now that we've read this entire very interesting article, I want you to frame sentences with 2 words today. I want you to frame sentences with apparent. That was a very good word. And also, I want you to frame sentence with stimulation. Okay, some very common words, less common, maybe not used too much. There were some rare words too, but these are less common words, apparent and stimulation. Okay, so you will frame sentences with these 2 words, and also along with that, I also want you to express your opinion. Now, coming to the interesting part of this particular guided newspaper practice, do you think it's good that a lot of people are shifting to digital? A lot of people are accessing internet for obtaining information, for obtaining entertainment. Do you think it's a good thing that people are increasingly doing that today? Do you think it's a good thing? Now, does that ring a bell? This is exactly how writing task 2 questions are, right? And this is exactly how reading helps you frame and trigger opinions. All right. So try and frame your, don't say it's a good thing or yes or no. Try and write sentences about why it's a good thing or why it's not a good thing. You will do that. Okay. And also leave your sentences with 2 words. Apparent means something that's very clear. Stimulation is something, again, that's a trigger. Okay, so try framing sentences with these 2 words. Now, onslaught, a lot of you are asking me what onslaught means. Onslaught is attack, basically. Okay, something that's a fierce attack on something, a very strong attack of information. That's what onslaught means. Yes. Correct. All right. Good job in participating, all of you. And I'm looking forward to reading your comments on your opinion, because this is exactly why I picked this article, because you are asked questions like this. Good. Okay. Nice that you guys participated. Now it's time for me to talk about the fast track program. All of you, or most of you here, are actually fast track members. Utkarsh comes every day. Deep is also a fast track member. Kiran, a lot of you, in fact, are already a fast track members. Now, if you guys want to be a part of our fast track program, which is a very intensive program, it lasts for about 3 months. and it contains a lot of features. One of it being that the video lessons are available on our exclusive app for you to learn from. And these contain all the concepts associated with all the sections, including grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. All right. Along with this, you also have question banks and some readable material for you to learn from. Now, every day you have live classes in the evening based on certain practice sets. And this practice comes to you every morning. That's what happens on weekdays. On weekends, again, you have live classes where we cover all the concepts associated with that section. So we pick 1 week for each section. We give an entire week for grammar too, and you have this 5 week cycle, 4 sections for IELTS, one section called grammar. We have this 5 week cycle repeating every month for 3 months. Okay, and that's why it is intensive. You're practicing every day, you're coming to a live session almost every day. And apart from this, you have access to the chief coaches through WhatsApp, and also you have 10 full reviews on all the 4 sections. As in, you are reviewing with us, you're listening, you're reading, you're writing, and you're speaking. Okay, so if you guys want to be a part of this program, you can fill out the admissions form. The link to the admissions form will be there in the description of this video. Okay, so when you fill out the admission form, you will receive a call from our counselors. All right. So that's about today's guided newspaper practice. I will see you guys in another newspaper session. Bye bye. Have a nice day.